Okay. First,
You piece the two videos together and make a panorama of the room. That'd be kind of
all right. Okay, here's what I'd like you to do.
Group project.
No, not yet.
I think we're all the same one.
Okay. Remember to.
I know. That could help you get into college. Yeah, I have this one.
Okay. Hey, on the piece of paper in front of you. Okay, you have a curve. What I'd like you to do is find the average between the front point and the back point. So it's A and B. So on yours, it should look something like this. Should look something. Yeah. So hey, it should look something like this, right?
Can we just label the points that
A,
we're talking about?
B, and C. Label those right now.
Okay.
What I'd like you to do is find the average slope between A to C.
Yeah, you said
Okay, I want you to
first
find
time.
the average slope.
So is this like
It's like what we did yesterday. So average slope.
what?
Okay? I'd like you to find that. Now, the second thing I'd like you to do.
No,
is you have that.
just wait. Whoa.
It shouldn't take you that long to write A, B, and C.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. Second thing you have to do. You have to find the instantaneous slope. Instantaneous slope at point B.
At point B.
At point B.
At point B. It's
Okay? Your hint on that one, you had to pick points that were really close. Okay?
Close.
All right. So those are the first two on that first picture. Now, I know there's not a lot of room. You can, right off to the side, you can use a scratch piece of paper, which I'll provide you here in a second if you need to. After that's all done, the last thing I want you to do is figure out on that second one, I think it's f of x equals 3x squared, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to find the first derivative at the point 1. So f prime of 1. These are all the things we did yesterday, and I want to see how many people were paying attention and actually trying to figure out what we did yesterday.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Checkmate.
Okay, I'm gonna hand out paper if you need it. Scratch paper
That's what I got.
if you need it.
Thank you, Mr.
Scratch paper.
Oh, yeah.
If you need it for the work, especially on that
I
second
don't
one.
like this part.
I checked 3, 3, and 0.
3, 3, 0,
Why did I?
So I'm giving you a scratch paper in case you need it, because I know a lot of you don't have a lot of space here.
Yeah,
Close.
it's all different. Mine pretty much.
Boom, here's your scratch paper if you need it, because I know there's not a lot of room for that second.
Oh, I have got.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't know what she's not good.
Ooh.
Mar, I can hear you talking here, but I just like to say that I don't.
Sure. Here's my instantaneous slope real quick.
1 over 0 equals 0.
I checked my instantaneous.
How did you want? Wait, yeah.
1 over 3. 3 minus 0 is 3.
How do the derivative right to plug in
You're right.
X?
Got it.
You know what I'm saying?
I did 3 minus 0 equals 0.
Do I have to do this?
Hey, the picture for that second one isn't good. Oh, is that the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but is that, I think you're doing the second
I
one.
think,
No, it's
yes.
instantaneous slope.
This part?
Like that. and then-
Is that over H now?
I don't know common math.
Hey, I'm not saying it right or wrong.
Minus
So it's right.
3 squared. So we gotta do that.
Could be wrong.
Minus 3 squared.
I don't know.
I use.
I really don't
You
know
just
the
split it up.
Just what about the formula?
The,
You plug x plus
The one
h
that
into
H
x,
is
and then you
that-
throw the.
hey,
If you put that on the board, I'll be able to do much better.
Okay,
What is it?
there you go.
Minus it?
if you need the first derivative formula,
No.
Yes.
B minus 3x times 3.
What are you talking about? I don't know.
I'm skipping over this portion.
I remember.
Don't mind doing these.
Wait.
So did you get something like this?
You sure did.
Oh, where's the word out? That's a problem.
I just added them together. So that's a problem too.
So now you gotta evaluate where each approaches 0. And then you gotta figure out the derivative at 1.
Equals 6 plus 3h.
Then h has approached 0.
Oh, wait, hang on. Right?
Then you gotta evaluate at 1.
And then over here, and these ones.
You could have 4.
Well, I put the 3 in there right away.
I have 9. I applied 3 later after I.
Where'd you get the 6? 3 times 2h?
You wrote negative one right here.
Oh, is it, hey, is that a negative 1?
It's
Sorry.
negative 1.
Negative 1, sorry.
2h,
Then you're right.
then the h can't.
Negative 1, sorry, my bad.
How'd you get it?
Was that
Is this right
these two
or is this
together?
wrong?
I didn't put them
We're
together.
differing on
I
it.
put them together. That'll work.
It's hers,
I got 3h plus 3h, is that right? 3h plus 6, actually. What did I do wrong? Hey, am I right? Is it just
One's
3H?
closer than the other, I'll say
Is
that.
it
Which is
hers?
hard.
For the
Is it hers?
I was just
You
looking.
need to
How
tell
about
me.
you tell us, please?
Quick question, Mr. Ward.
Please, Mr. Ward.
I'd say she's closer, but she's missing
Am
things.
I closer?
Okay.
Missing things? I thought it was just 3h.
What, don't make that
First one,
change.
you
That makes no
felt
sense.
confident.
That's right, Mr. Ward.
Mr. Ward, I hope you noticed my first time I actually felt confident in class here.
X squared.
Hey, last
I
night.
don't know exactly.
Wait, no, there's something at the end that's not.
Yes, okay.
It's negative, right? You explain
We're
negative.
missing something.
Is that for the second one?
Did you negative 6?
I don't think you're supposed to have H.
Mr. Ward, last night I
H is
tried to do
supposed to
house
have
homework, didn't know how to do it, started crying.
Why? It says the
I
formula.
don't know.
The formula was.
Well, the negative
Isn't that
3x
supposed to be-
squared,
isn't
I
this
tried to do
supposed to
calc
be
homework, decided
HX?
that I didn't know how to do it, randomly started doing stuff, got the right answer. I wanted to do it with book, but oh, that must be how I do
You
it.
forgot to evaluate each comes in.
Yeah.
Cause you go boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that's what you got wrong.
2xh.
So it's equal to x squared. Mr.
Yeah.
Ward, is this right?
Plus 6x.
Mr. Ward,
No.
how does this?
There's a leave in there. Mr. Ward.
I did have to check my
You
answer.
have all the sandwiches memorized.
Mr. Ward, check this.
So I'm gonna take it.
Well, I'm not done, but I meant am I right so far?
6x plus 3h. Okay.
What is
Emergency call.
Yeah,
I almost
someone's
can't.
called
Oh,
911.
almost called the police.
If you hit the power button.
Alright, put yourself on down.
It was down.
You're not done. You gotta evaluate.
So it's a 6x plus 3h?
That's what I got.
You had to plug it in.
Is this like the first
You
statement
have to plug
down?
it.
You have to put 0 in for 3, so 6x.
So it's negative.
Mr. Ward. Okay, I'm gonna give you
Boom.
2 more minutes.
Mr. Ward. You still
Bam.
not working enough.
Look
I've
at
been
this.
waiting.
Mr. Ward.
Bam. You have 6.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes?
Mr. Ward, why did you have, Mr. Ward, I've been waiting for.
God, I hate when people do that.
That's what I have. There's like a-
Or,
Hate when people
this is just frustrating because there's so much writing you have to do.
No.
Okay.
Like it takes up.
That's
X
Yeah.
equals a negative 1. Are you gonna teach us the short way?
Eventually.
Eventually, oh, eventually, he's the bad scientist now, he doesn't know.
Because I know it's a
Mr.
short
Ward, are
way and I
you more
kinda
brilliant or are you not more brilliant than Mr. Einstein?
7.
How many iPads could he turn on? 0.
Yeah.
Could he run a computer?
Yes.
How many 4K, you can't, your MacBook, could he open?
Okay, here's what I'd like you to do.
Websites.
Take your papers. Papers. I'd like you to put your name on it.
Wait, which one?
How many?
Both of them. You gotta put them together. Okay, names on both.
No.
Because if you had work on a piece of paper, because I'm betting on most of you did, you needed it for that second one. You need to exchange it with the person next to you,
Y'all have the same stuff.
then hand it to the person
Justin.
across.
What?
You want this?
Trade me.
Okay. Jared. Lucas,
You don't have the same thing?
Okay, hand it to the group next door.
Yeah, he said.
What?
Someone that doesn't have it.
Yeah, somebody that's not for you. You probably
Oh, there, you guys see your circle.
Mr. Ward, what if my partner doesn't have any work that he
That's
has?
fine.
Hey,
Check
David.
it.
You want this? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still different.
Literally
everyone did the same stuff.
Justin got 4 or 5. Is that right?
Okay, all right. Here's what we're gonna do. Now that you have your papers exchanged,
Wait,
let's go through this pretty quick. Number 1.
Wait, 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 wait.
Justin, what?
All right, average slope. Number 1, this is what we're finding on that first problem. An average slope is the line that's connecting A to C. That's all it is. So, if you have the coordinates, well, the coordinate was -1, 4, and what is that? 5, is that 5, 7?
Sure.
I don't know, here, somebody give me your graph. I don't want to get the wrong
Mr.
point.
Ward, here.
It's negative 1, 3.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. 4 comes 7. Okay, 5 7. Is it 3 or 4?
3. It's 4. Negative 1, 3. What? It's on top of this.
What are you looking for?
Yeah, what are you trying to?
On mine is
Over negative 1
Your
on
very first
3.
coordinate, negative 1,
Yeah.
negative 1, 3, not negative 1, 4.
Oh, we thought
It
Yeah.
depends on what group you had. Is it 3?
3.
It is
yeah,
3.
All right, 3 for
I
you.
thought you guys were talking
Sorry.
about the 4, 7.
That was a
No,
huge
no.
difference.
All right, 3. Sorry, I just put the dot in the wrong spot.
It's
Just
okay.
want to make sure. All right, so if this is what we have, the average slope is you just go y minus y, x over x minus x. It's the normal slope you did in Algebra 1 class. It's 7 minus 3, 4 minus a negative 1. It should be 4 over 5. That's your slope. Okay?
That's one.
Okay.
What?
Instantaneous slope. Shh, shh, shh.
No.
Instantaneous slope.
I didn't want to.
Now, if you had the formula, hey, if you had the formula, this is instantaneous slope. If you had a formula, but you don't. So you had to go off of the coordinates. What I told you yesterday is pick coordinates that are very, very close together.
How about 3 over 3?
Okay, pick coordinates that are very close together, and then you can get as close to this as possible,
I didn't check.
and that's the idea. So, what I'd like you to look for right now is what coordinates did they pick, depending on how they subtracted. So, because again, that part is a free-for-all. They have to pick coordinates that are close. Maybe they picked 3, 3 and 1, 3. Maybe they picked 2.5, 2.5, or 1.5, 2.5.
Which point did you?
Okay,
You picked a point that's not on the line.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, 0, 2 isn't on the line.
It's
0,
on
2.
Mars line, so I definitely messed up.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, hey,
I was confused.
Wait,
I was.
all right.
It
Okay.
definitely goes through 0, 3.
So, all right. Whatever coordinates they go through, they have to subtract them just like before, and this gets closer and closer to the real answer. It's still the same formula, but you're getting closer and closer to the real slope. Now, here's what I want you to notice. Okay? Were the slopes the exact same number?
No.
No, they shouldn't be. In fact, the slope at point B is more level. It's almost 0, because it's at a point where it turns, versus this one that's going positive. I don't know what coordinates you picked. If you happen to pick coordinates that were negative, it was probably, the fraction was probably a small number on the top, bigger number on the bottom. That type of thing. Okay? I'm looking to see what coordinates you picked. Okay, third step, because I'm going to bypass that one, that's the one I'm going to check later. Third step. We had to do this problem. You had to plug your numbers in. The thing that I was noticing, you have to do this. X plus h squared minus the original f of x, and then it has to go all over h, but a lot of people were forgetting the limit. You have to write this out front. We talked about this.
Oh my god.
Okay?
I wrote it every single
You
time.
have to write it. Now, until you evaluate.
What if we don't forget about it though?
Well,
no.
if it's not in the end of our answer, why is it important?
So, because we're going to evaluate, we have to plug it in later.
I don't know how to.
Okay, now, okay, so, what we have here, when we distribute or we FOIL, we're going to get x squared plus 2x h's plus h squared. We'll have to distribute the 3 through. And again, how I did that was just putting an x plus h into that function wherever the x's are. This is all over h, and I still have the limit out front. H approaches 0. You distribute the 3 through, so a lot of people are getting down to this answer where it was
3x squared plus
3x
6.
squared plus 6x h's plus 3h squares minus 3x squared. All over h, and you have the limit out front.
X squared is 1.
Okay, so we do that. We simplify because certain things will cancel, like the x squares. And what you're left with, you should be able to divide by h. So when you divide by h, this is what we're left with. 6xh plus
Started at the
3h
bottom
squared.
and then went
No,
up.
you
Now,
can't that
When
H.
you did, you started at the bottom.
Did
No.
my what?
Your math.
Say,
Dude, what the
okay,
heck?
You know what
sorry.
I mean?
All right, now, hey, when you're
You
there,
started here.
the
and then
next
up.
thing, the next thing is we have to evaluate where h is 0. What happens when h goes to 0? There's no problem with plugging it in now. So if I plug it in, now you can get rid of that limit idea, where you have 3 times 0, which is 0. And the last step is to evaluate the actual slope at -1. So yeah, you plug that in, and that has to go into your x. So your instantaneous rate of change, or your instant slope, your first derivative, dy or dx, ddx, or f prime, whatever you want to call it, should be -6. Okay, I would like you to turn these in. Make sure you have your name on them. I actually want them in the back basket, please. Back basket. Put your graph with the piece of paper, please.
Would you like me to write a name on this piece of paper?
Oh, they call it rookie with hope.
Just like as much as there was in first grade.
Don't ever improve my class.
I don't mean it. I was just getting a little bit of that.
Did you read my notes?
The J thing is a J.
Oh, and you go for the what?
Spell this right.
No, let me help you. No, I was gonna put Jughead. What? Did you put
Bring
Jughead?
her to the bathroom.
No!
Riverdale? I haven't seen that before.
Why is there tennis balls?
This is a prison.
Okay, hey, next, you're gonna get in groups of partners of 2 people, 1 and 2, okay? Not 3, not 4, 2 people, okay? All right, now, I'm gonna hand you out a piece of paper. It's gonna explain what we're doing. You need a piece of paper with your group and a graph, okay? So each group will have it. So move right now, get with your partner, move, sit right across from each other.
You want to be next to me?
Thank you, Mr. Okay, you want to sit right next to your partner. Cross, either way. Yeah, be next.
What did you say last night? Add.
No, like, oh, it made me so angry. I'm gonna start saying it.
Yeah.
Oh
my goodness.
Darn it! Oh my gosh! What the heck?
All right. Okay.
Hi!
Okay. All right. Hey, here's what we're gonna do.
Oh my god!
We're gonna do this little experiment where we're gonna put into action the things we're learning right now. So every group in here, you're gonna get a tennis ball.
Throw a big one!
Seems like a dangerous.
Stop off! Yours has a dead bug on it!
Ew, ew. Oh no.
Everyone's got one? Oh, yours.
Slap your hand and I started to think about it.
Okay. Hey, here's what we're gonna do. If you look at the directions, you're gonna need your stopwatch, which is gonna be your cell phone.
I got one!
You got a tennis ball. You got your piece of notebook paper, which I provided with you. That's their little graph paper.
with you.
You have this little sheet that has all the directions. Okay, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna be dropping a ball from different heights that are marked on this piece of paper. You're gonna have to kind of figure out the heights. We have a couple rulers in here. I'll hand them out to the different groups. Okay. You're gonna count the number of bounces it takes for the ball to stop bouncing. I know it gets hard when it gets really close to the ground. Just count, do the best you can. You're gonna use a stopwatch on the second trial where you're doing a stopwatch when it stops bouncing. So you're gonna go from 1 foot, 3 feet, so 1 foot, down by your about knee level. 3 feet's about the height of the desk, roughly. 5 feet, you're kind of standing up. 7 feet, you're on the top of the desk, and then 10 feet, you're at the top, like touching the ceiling. The ceiling's about 10 foot exactly. Okay, no, all right, now.
I think that's dangerous.
Now, to log this data, you're gonna log the data in like a table, get all your numbers. You have to do 3 drops per height, and I want the average of them. So if you're counting the bounces, and you dropped it from 1 foot, maybe it was 10, then it was 12, then it was 11, the average is about 11. Okay? 3 drops per height, you need the time, same thing. On the time, be as accurate as possible.
What is the time on there?
When it stops bouncing. So when you first dropped, to when it stopped bouncing. Okay? Now, what I would like you to do after you have all this data, you're going to graph. There's going to be 2 separate graphs. There's going to be one graph that's the bounces, one graph that's the time. And it's always based on the height, so your x-axis should be your independent. Once you have these, I'll tell you what to do from there on. The back kind of explains, we're going to come up with equations. for your information. Okay? Alright, yeah. A little bit of algebra 1 that you're doing on the back. Okay, and then we're going to mix in some calc in the front. Okay? Alright. So, do you know what you're doing here?
Kinda.
Start collecting your data right now. Go.
So we gotta do time and how many bounces?
I want 10 foot.
Three for each one. Three for each one.
You gotta count the bounces. You have to tell us to start.
Okay, rulers over here. Do you need them?
We don't need a ruler.
Cause stop wanting to rock. I'm a ball.
There's a lot of human error, but it's 1.33.
And go.
You're telling me clicking this.
You count the bounces. 2.65 seconds.
Wow.
Okay.
So, 2.09.
I think.
Okay, hey, here's your rulers. If you guys want to be accurate, you can kind of find the measurements.
Ready?
Oh, I can't do it. That's hard.
Maybe I should.
This is too hard.
I'll tell you. 3, 2, 1. Okay, ready?
Go.
Because now the scoliosis thing is not accurate.
Once I start, it's stop it.
2.53.
Okay, so let's just.
Hey, it's fine. You can do 3 trials.
Dude, that's like right.
No, it's after 7. No, it won't.
I think so.
Okay, ready? How many? 3, 2, 1. It's 27.
Stop bouncing completely?
Yes.
What do you mean? Stop being mean. You're holding it at a different height every time. Go. Two.
How many 9?
He definitely said me.
Keep drop there.
Right here. Go.
3. Alright.
I think it was 9.
9?
We did 3 times.
Probably good than mine.
1.96.
And go.
Drop. Go.
2 points, right? How many? It's like right here. 3, 2, 1.
We're supposed to count the bounces.
And time, yes. What have you been doing this time? Yeah, count the bounces. I don't remember putting physics on my schedule twice.
10.
5 feet.
5 feet?
So we redo
Ready? How tall are you?
Well, we just go like, no.
Start kidding me.
Alright,
3, 2, 1.
Yep. Ready, set.
Okay, now we're gonna do 5 feet.
2, 3.
So,
At least 8.
measure it up to the channel.
3, 2, 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, ready? Don't raise your arm. Don't raise your arm like that.
10.
5 feet, so let's just 3.
Go.
Mr. Ward, is that a clear
No. 1, 2, 3. Right
You
here.
could be hiding
From this thing.
illegal substances.
10.
7 feet. I'll call you. 1. I'm 5'9".
Well,
5'9".
already done.
Alright, yeah, perfect. Good enough. How tall are you, Jesse? 7 foot? Yes. Ready? Go.
Okay.
Ready?
And
Here we go.
Restart, it didn't work. Hit something.
11 that time. Neat.
I think 3.5.
Ward, we gotta count it. I did the last
We'll do it.
Time. Takes to stop.
1.
How many?
Okay, ready?
You should have done all.
At the top of the thing.
Move a whole decimal.
Drop.
7 feet.
Go. 11. 3.
Fine intention, but that's the thing.
Just like 5 minutes after ours, this is the highest.
Oh wait, can you redo that? Sorry, I didn't start my timer.
How many bucks?
1, 2, ready?
Go.
8.79.
Except Jared. I'll fall.
Okay, let's redo that one.
Alright.
Stop it.
Hold it out as far as we can.
think autocorrect is the best, that's subject. No idea where it's to go.
One, two.
3.6. Thank you.
Mr. Ward, isn't this the 10-foot ceiling?
Yeah.
All right, touch ceiling.
Should I just hold the
Don't break the desk and don't fall. 5, 6, 7, 2.
Beauty.
11.
I feel like.
Are you ready to record now or no? All right, here we go. I have to get on some. You're gonna drop it. 2. No. Okay.
Okay. There's more review. There's a stand on the desk. I want to stand.
I missed it. 3.
We actually need to make a table.
Right? 1. Drop. 3, 6. 4.6.
9 bounces actually.
Then 10. Great.
Just bounces a second time. Oh.
Drop.
3, 2, 1.
Is it gonna, alright, I'll say number of bounces every time.
4.8.
Is it gonna be the number of bounces every time?
4.93, 11, 63, 10, 12.
7 to 12. But 10 or 9. Bottom for mountains, right?
That was like solid 8 bounce.
Boom, done, right? Do not let Mr. Ward see.
Got all your discs? Start plotting.
It's D-dash.
Here's your
You have 2
ruler.
different graphs.
Here's your yardstick.
2 different graphs?
Why do you need 2 graphs?
One for the bounces, one for time.
I put bounces on one of the.
Can I stay on the desk?
No, because you're both dependent.
Can I stay on the desk?
Both dependent.
Can this just be the
They're near
bounces?
desk, you're good.
Justin, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 graphs.
What's up, man? What's-
I got it.
Yeah, behind that.
Does it matter? Does it actually matter?
You did last time. Right about.
Heights on the bottom?
What?
Heights on the
It's
x-axis?
on the X. You're in control of height, right?
Use your hand. You can't use your hand. I didn't know I did.
I feel like you're like start after you say that though.
Hey, remember, you need 3 heights from each drop. 3 heights from each, or 3 drops from each
How many
height.
times did it bounce?
5 bounces for.
Mr. Ward, I thought you were after.
What?
Okay.
5,
3.
7.
Use the vector meters per second. What direction?
At 1, is that what you want?
8 times.
40.
Well, we need the average, which I feel like is
Sounds alright. Doesn't have to be a vector unless you have a direction with it.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, sure. Mr. Ward, what is your favorite
Oh.
vector coordinate?
Okay.
I feel like that's not right.
Right there.
Light years per hour.
Feet per second squared.
back right like that.
Why? That's such an inapplicable use. Everything's in meters. Doesn't work.
Except for gravity, you can measure feet per second squared.
Pardon me? It's minus 9.8 meters per second. 9.8
Meters like 16 feet per second squared?
No one cares about that.
32, I think it's 32.
There's no way it's 16. There's 3 meters in a foot.
I think it's 32.
A
I think it's 32.
meter is longer than a yard.
Like 3 inches or so, 3.5.
Wait, do you want us to average them out?
Yeah, so average, when you do your 3 drops from each height, average it out, that's the one you're gonna plot. You should have 2 different graphs going, one graph's all your bounces, one graph's all your time. But the height should be the thing you're in control of.
1.8.
Where would you like to see our?
Now we have plot.
Okay, no, we're working on it.
Multiply them all.
Mr. Ward, if you could go any speed, what would it be?
Light.
15.
Speed of light?
Started.
Why? Do I need to average times too?
The first one is 2.63.
You can go the speed of light, you age slower.
Isn't it from a movie?
No.
Because 2 is like right.
You wish you were 22 or 95.
Oh, well, I was thinking that you didn't have
I
an
won't
extra
know
knot.
that, I'd rather be
Very
22.
straight.
3.3 about
So
86.
this
I
one
won't put that far.
is 3 times and
My average was, and I can only like 55. 2.5.
2.5.
Okay, well, this is 5, 6. I don't know what you're saying, but it is 4.2.
They're only 9 and 10.
Yeah. I can
Mr. Ward, you're gonna buck the trend.
That's all I'm saying.
I do.
Have him do it while he is.
Why do we need the time?
4.05.
So we have to.
4.13.
Yeah, the
3.9.
Two coordinates.
Okay,
4.0.
So we have literally so many.
8.
do we find the hour?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Start like right where
All right. 4.07.
Okay, tennis balls, do I have them all back?
Did we get our
4.22.
No, you,
Or-
mine would be just side.
Turn.
Knees.
Tennis ball.
What do you have to pump
This
it up?
will be a blessing.
I used to play tennis a lot. So,
I know.
so rub
Sharp.
down.
All right.
Like your back.
So, yeah, so-
So on your x-axis, we have 1.5. 8 to 9 bounce so
Yeah.
or is that enough?
Well, I
8
can't
to
wait.
12. Is that what we
Mr.
want?
Ward,
Are we
Atari.
supposed to like do independent, like coordinates, like label each of the coordinates?
Just wait your stop. Okay, 5.
Because it says coordinates and grass.
You actually compare these, I just be about the same height. 1 Newton taller.
I bet he's shorter than you.
A is 5'11".
Really? That was tall for.
So we don't have to say, oh, Lord, this is not right.
Mr. Ward,
Ours
who's
is
your favorite
bounces
philosopher?
staying the same.
Yeah, because we only got 8 to 9 for bounces every single time.
Yeah, Justin, what's the response?
Cindy, kick my pencil to me.
It's just gonna be,
Yeah, and stop bouncing.
Mr. Ward.
I think our goal
it's
is
just gonna be that the whole time.
Who's your favorite philosopher?
Okay, then what's the second?
Plato.
Mr. Ward, you want us to put
He
that?
was wrong about like everything.
Yes, sir.
Would you like us to connect?
Stop, you did famous.
Reconnect the dots.
Yeah, but I can just be like, oh, gravity is not real.
Okay, the times will be
I can
good though.
famous.
Times will be good. We're
Mr.
good.
Ward.
That's all that from 2
Jim Carrey thinks we're just a bunch of floating polytechnic neutrons, so it's
Wait.
pretty
So
genius.
it's gonna be feet again.
He said he doesn't exist. He said this is not our world.
Very, very different results depending on the test.
Mr. Ward. Mr. Ward, should I just start pretending that gravity isn't real?
Maybe you're just bad counting.
Yeah, it's probably you go.
Lucas said he was guessing.
I've never
That's the established rule now, I think you
Should we
just.
go back to
Kyrie
5?
Irving said the earth is flat.
And then he apologized.
Yeah.
And then he said that.
Yeah.
No, but then like
Then
a
he
week
proceeded
later,
to
he's like, I
apologize.
was just trying to get a reaction. Like a week after that, he's like, no, it really is flat. And he was like, it's not flat.
This is bounces. Shoot, I should have put this.
Mr. Ward, what is your favorite American law?
This is 1.42.
Like every force there's an equal and opposite force.
I should go by. Or 2.5.
Third law.
Yeah,
Action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
it makes the most sense.
Alright, so at 1.
Like if I punch him in the face, he gets kind of mad. Punches me in the face.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I get
When Lucas punches Reese, and it's just a chain reaction. We'll just have two different
Will you let me go to the bathroom?
Okay, hey, once you have all your data plotted,
It's over.
hey, once you have your data plotted, I want you to try to make a best fit line on your graph. Let's explain what that is.
Oh, not connect the points, I already did that. We connected the points. But best fit line would be like this.
Best fit line. We'll leave this on the board, alright. Okay, a best fit line is when you have data plotted. In fact, let me turn the camera around here so you can see this. Okay,
This is actually films butterflies
So-
every time.
alright. So, hey, if you have your data, and
Okay.
whatever, I don't know what your data looks like, maybe it looks like this, I don't know, maybe this is your number of bounces.
Yeah.
Okay, what I like is you to draw a best fit line that kind of goes right down through the middle.
It is straight edge.
It is a line.
Straight edge.
So I will provide you a straight edge if you
Ours
need it.
doesn't work.
More,
I
we
want
can't
you
do
to
that.
say the best, draw the best line that you can.
Ours
Just gonna go steal people's cars because they owe the bank money. You'll have that. You wish you could be
Alright,
able to.
who would like a straight edge for the best
I
fit
would
line?
love a straight.
I don't, because I
Well,
have. I
we don't need
draw
one because we
straight
can't
edge.
even make a line, okay? Wait, Mr. Morgan.
Oh, I
So, or how am I supposed to make a line?
We'd like one, please.
No, how am I really supposed to do it? Because I already.
We don't need one, we're not gonna do anything.
This is just best fit, it's just going right down the middle, just draw
We'll
the
probably
little
have
that.
to
Red rock. Hand off the other one.
So we're leaving it on that.
No, this one will.
Gotcha. Oh my gosh.
I think those gentlemen over there.
Like this?
This straight edge.
Reese's like, oh, so smart.
Happy birthday.
We have probably the greatest best fit line ever. No.
Alright, now,
Does it have to go from like the bottom to the top? It's gonna go straight down.
wherever your line goes, just has to go to the middle of your data.
If it's horizontal.
You and Ryan fighting over
Oh, it's going
Your
straight.
data, you mean?
Data.
Can you please
Yes.
really annoying me how you
Who is
say
this?
Do you say scenario? Scenario? Did you say that?
Scenario.
Like wrestling for my
Is it
money.
scenario?
I was like, no, mine.
Did you say semi-sweet or semi-sweet?
Semi.
If you say it out loud, then it really messes with it. If you told me on paper,
How can I tell you on paper it's spelled the same? It's just scenario,
but you saying it, I'm gonna say
The
it.
manager that was our.
Let's say scenario, scenario.
Okay, alright. Hey, real quick. Once you have your best fit line drawn, here's what I'd like you to do.
Divided by 2.
No, I want you, wherever your best fit line is, try to figure out the points that are on it and try to give me the equation in 3 different forms. What do I mean by that? This line, we'll call this f of x, this best fit line has 2 coordinates on it. You can figure out where these coordinates are, wherever you're going through, I don't know. Okay, wherever those dots are. You need to figure out slope for it, and you need to figure out those different equations, like slope-intercept form, where it's gonna hit the y-axis.
It doesn't have to go through 0, 0.
It's straight.
We'll talk about that.
Still.
Because I know it's
Here's your other form. This is point slope form. That's probably the easiest one. And the last one is standard form. To get to standard, you just have to rearrange slope intercept. So it looks like that.
So.
Okay? Once you have it, you have to have it for both graphs. Then we can use this to predict. Come here.
Should I use these numbers or should I?
Wait, we're trying to find the best fit line or the?
Do the best. So like,
Do you want me to use these
yeah,
or
try to
just
use,
count?
try to use these numbers.
The numbers I wrote down?
Mr. Ward, we supposed to?
So
I have confusion.
we have to
Are we
use
supposed to
You need
those
to find
based on
slope
my
for your best fit
fit
line.
line.
Find slope for it.
So this is
Okay.
like a.
Oh wait, how do we?
about a half.
They're literally the same points.
It's fine. You can find slope.
It's gonna be 0. It's gonna be 0.
Okay,
We're
that's
supposed to
Zero.
The best fit line or the?
Y equals.
Best fit.
What are you doing?
Find the equation for your best fit line.
Mr. Ward, and then we have to find.
How can we?
So.
And then we just have to plug in the other form.
What?
Superintendent.
Superintendent would be you.
Uh,
You get you.
Wait, how do you pronounce
Hey, crap.
So.
Did you get in trouble a lot? Did you ever?
N-A-T-U-R-E? How do
Did
you
you ever break a
pronounce
ruler on someone?
that? N-A-T-U-R-E. How do you pronounce that?
Did you ever broke a lunch tray over
So
someone's?
that's our slope.
Mr. Ward, we get out in a couple seconds here, I believe.
Good. I hate people who say mature. Mature.
Did you ever?
Or economics or economics.
Mr. Ward.
So what?
Hey, I want your rulers back. This data and your information. Try to bring it back tomorrow. If you fear you're gonna lose it,
Leave it here.
leave it with somebody that won't.
I don't want to take it.
I have just like where?
We're gonna need it tomorrow.
Yeah, what? I probably won't do though.
Mr. Ward, I trust you with this.
Mr. Ward once said you got a detention.
So we'll just work on these guys. See what he says.
What did you do?
I definitely have to do, but.
Lucas,
Mr. Ward, you got rules are meant to be broken.
Are you like just gonna leave it actually?
What did you say?
You remember that you had to test it. I got attention last year.
I'll come back next
Mr. Ward, what did you say?
hey,
You got your
We're gonna go over this.
Come back and see me yet. Hello, Mr. Ward.
Yeah, I'm transferred. I'm like 79 now.
I'm in top 100 or 300.
This thing is so confusing.
Your phone?
Yeah, I can't hit the home button anymore.
I would write a bad review to
That is
Apple.
just stupid.
On Yelp.
You should apologize.
What?
You should